everybody, and thank you for joining us via Zoom today. My name is Sandra Hubbard-LeBlanc, and I'm the behind the scenes help for today, and we're excited to be able to connect and learn with you. We're using Zoom for Healthcare, an online technology that helps us connect with you securely. We believe that privacy measures put in place by Zoom will protect your privacy, but urge you to also take steps to protect your own privacy. If you're experiencing any troubles, send a message in the chat box to the host and I will try to help you through it. And for today's session, all participants have been muted and video turned off. With these privacy measures in place, we will be recording the session for future use. And I'll now introduce you to the facilitator for today and her role, Cara Murgatroyd. She is an Education and Support Services Coordinator with the Alzheimer's Society. Take it away, Cara.
Super, thanks so much, Sandra. Yes, and welcome everyone to today's session. And I have to say, happy St. Paddy's Day today. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge that we are gathered today on sacred land that has been the site of human activity since time immemorial. We are in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people, and we acknowledge them as the past, present, and future caretakers of this land. We are all treaty people. And again, thank you for taking the time to join us this afternoon. We are using the Zoom platform to stay connected with you. Please feel free to ask questions throughout the session through the private confidential chat. That's a little box at the bottom of your screen. For some of you, it may be at the top of your screen, so just look for that. Remember to press enter to send the message to us. And then, of course, questions will be only seen by Sandra, who is our ASNS host today. And we will get to those questions at the end of today's presentation. Our audience today includes people living with dementia, people that are caring for their family members with dementia, and other people who would just like to learn more about dementia. We will have a 40-minute presentation, approximately 40 minutes, and then we'll follow that up with about 10 to 15 minutes of questions and answers, of course. So today's presentation, I'm really excited to introduce you to Caregivers Nova Scotia, who we are, and how we can help. And of course, our speakers this afternoon will be Janine Wilson and Joanne Connors. And Janine provides support to caregivers in the Valley region. She has extensive experience supporting youth, adults, and their families who live with physical, cognitive, or mental health disabilities. And her previous work has deepened her compassion and her appreciation for the caregivers in the Valley communities. So Janine will be our first guest speaker, and they're actually going to work in tandem throughout the presentation. And our second speaker for today is Joanne Connors. And Joanne has a background in mental health as a behavior interventionist, and she supports caregivers in the Halifax area. As well, she has supported caregivers in Cape Breton, in Guysborough, and Antigonish counties. So she works with caregivers, problem-solving solutions and strategies that preserve dignity and respect. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Janine and Joanne. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks, Cara. So this is our presentation about Caregivers Nova Scotia, and I'd like to just draw your attention to the background of this first slide. I hope you can see it, but it's our symbol is on there that we have chosen, which is the hummingbird. And we chose the hummingbird because it performs the impossible. It works at lightning speed. It survives extremes, and it often flies solo, which is true for many caregivers. So we at Caregivers Nova Scotia, we all have been a caregiver, are still a caregiver, and I'm sure we'll all be future caregivers and care recipients as well. So we do have a bit of an understanding of our own experiences as well. So the information that we're going to go over today is first, we're just going to start with the words, the language that we use at Caregivers Nova Scotia so that you can be familiar with that and that we're all on the same page. We're going to take a quick peek at a little bit of statistics to it can be eye-opening. Talk about caregiver support. We're going to look at who Caregivers Nova Scotia is, the pillars that we use in our work, and how we can help. So to start with, Caregivers Nova Scotia, the idea of a caregiver, we have a very large umbrella that covers who we see as caregivers. We see caregivers as unpaid and that they're essential. So it could be family, friends, neighbors, and you could be doing their finances, picking up groceries. You may be living with them. They may be in long-term care or living on their own. They could be dealing with dementia. They could be dealing with mental health issues. They could be dealing with physical abilities. So we have a very large umbrella, and one of the challenges is that people sometimes don't identify themselves as a caregiver, but we really see every little piece that you do to help somebody else live a good life is a part of caregiving. So care provider is somebody who's paid. So that they could be self-employed, they could be contracted. So down in the valley, continuing care contracts, the VON. We here at Caregivers Nova Scotia try to keep a list of self-employed people who provide care, but it also includes like your nurse practitioner, your physiotherapist, your dietitian, your pharmacist, everybody that is a part of the team, but they are paid, so they are a provider. And the care recipient is the person who is receiving care from their family member, their friend, their neighbor. And that person could be, again, living on their own, living with you, living in long-term care or another facility. We often say it's somebody's loved one. So this is just a little bit on some of the stats that can be pretty eye-opening. So overall in Canada, there's 1 in 4 Canadians is an unpaid caregiver. In Nova Scotia, that's higher. It's 1 in 3. And there was a national study done that 98% of home care clients said that they wouldn't be able to live on their own safely without the help of family and friend caregivers. And you are all saving the healthcare system $66 billion. So we've heard a lot of different things about how people, what they say about their role as a caregiver. And often we hear that it is very rewarding, that they're very happy to be able to take care of the responsibilities for a person if they can't manage them themselves. However, there's also a lack of confidence and feeling unprepared and intimidated by what might be lying ahead. And we've also heard that people would really like to gain more specific skills and knowledge and definitely support. So that is why Caregivers Nova Scotia is here. Those rewarding times of being a caregiver, if you're so overwhelmed, it's hard to capture those moments and to really keep those precious moments close to your heart. So we're here, we're hoping that we can help take something off your plate, whether it's doing some navigation for you to help you just understand with more quickly without making oodles of phone calls of how certain systems may work. And hopefully we know of resources in your communities that can help take something off your plate as well, and connect you up with other people and services in your community. So that's what we're here. We're hoping that we can reduce your stress a little bit, that we can take a little something off your plate, and that you can capture more of those rewarding moments. So Caregivers Nova Scotia, we've been around for 24 years. And often people are not finding us until they really need us. So if you're here and you don't need us, please tell everybody you know, so that when they do need us, they'll know we're here. All our programs are free. So everything we do for a caregiver is free. And that is one of the key things that we always want to make sure that that will be true. In the beginning, it was started by a group of women who sat around a kitchen table, and they had felt the support themselves from other caregivers, and so they really wanted to create opportunity for caregivers to network together and get the support they needed. And so the initial funding came from the McConnell Family Foundation, and we are very happy and fortunate that the Department of Seniors and Long-Term Care has seen the value in this service for caregivers. So we're not employees of, we are a nonprofit, but we are funded by the Nova Scotia Department of Seniors and Long-Term Care. And we have services in the entire province. So I'm going to hand it over to Joanne now, and she's going to go on for a little bit, and I'll come back later.
Thank you, Janine. So we operate under 4 pillars of support with Caregivers Nova Scotia, and our work is evidence-based. So we are very much research-driven and do participate in a lot of research because we believe that caregivers should be at every table representing caregivers. So we do speak on behalf, we do polls with our caregivers, we get feedback on stuff. So we're always tweaking our presentations, we're always feeding back into the systems that we help caregivers navigate through. For example, we have a very close relationship with the Department of Continuing Care, because we connect a lot of our caregivers to their services. So the first pillar is our information, healthcare navigation, and resources. We connect with caregivers via telephone and email. We also do educational workshops, and I'll talk about each of those a few slides ahead. We have support groups across the province. Some are virtual. We're bringing more and more online now in person, which we're happy to see, and we're all over the province. And we do provide advocacy for caregivers. So sometimes, and we often meet caregivers when they're in crisis mode, and sometimes just need to sort of go through things one step at a time. And so we will walk them through and guide them through and support them sometimes with making phone calls for them or connecting them to a person, giving them a name of someone, for example, at the Alzheimer's Society, as someone they can talk to. And sometimes that connection is just that little bit of encouragement to call and get the support and services that they need. Thank you. So in terms of information and health navigation and resources, seems to be on the page. Thank you. There we go. All our contact with caregivers is confidential. As I said, we do a lot of work over the telephone and through email support. We follow up with our caregivers over the phone and through email support. Often our first contact with a caregiver is when they are in crisis. And so a lot of why we're doing our program and services today is to let you know, as well as for you to pass the information on to caregivers that we're here to help and support them before they hit crisis point. as we know that the health of our caregivers is very important. And if they're not supported, then it's very difficult to be able to support their care recipient. We have conversations focused on the caregiver's needs and emotions. So a lot of it is who do I need to connect to and how do I do this and do that? But we also make sure to say to the caregivers or to ask them, so what sorts of things do you have in place to support yourself? We do empathetic listening. So, but as I said, sometimes it's just helping caregivers understand what are the next steps and supporting them. We'll often say to a caregiver, okay, once you get through this, give us a call back and we can talk about next steps. But we're not psychologists or psychiatrists. And we can't give medical, legal, or financial information, but we can connect you to people who can do that. And we support caregivers who lack transportation, have food insecurity, housing insecurity issues, don't have access to respite, are not comfortable in support groups, and so they would want one-on-one support. Thank you. We help caregivers navigate and let them know about federal and provincial programs and benefits that they're entitled to. Sometimes you don't know what you don't know. So we're a great first stop for caregivers that are at the beginning of their journey, trying to get oriented to what's out there and what they can access. We also have great community partners with the Alzheimer's Society. I work a lot with Shabakdale Connections, just to get the information out there to be able to meet caregivers where they are. And so there's a real great network of health organizations in Nova Scotia and outside of Nova Scotia that are there to support caregivers in their role. We will give caregivers information about services that are available in the community, like adult day programs. We get a lot of requests about where do I go to find out how to do proper lifting, how to do proper bathing, all kinds of questions. So we will connect caregivers to the information and the education pieces that they need. And the research part of this and the data part of this is that we know when people are better prepared for their caregiving role, then that reduces the stress, because we're always concerned about chronic stress and the effects that it has on a caregiver. If a caregiver's cup is empty, it's very difficult for them to fill someone else's cup. Thank you. So one of the sort of reflective exercises that we do with caregivers is to actually identify them as a caregiver. One of the largest barriers to caregivers accessing service is that they do not identify as a caregiver. They identify as a spouse, a sibling, a neighbor, a child of, and don't necessarily understand that what they are doing is very important and that their knowledge and expertise is very important at the table as well. So spread the word out there. There's a slide at the end that says, what can you do to help? Let people know about us so that we can meet them before there's a crisis or before they're exhausted and don't know where to turn to anymore. And that just helps them be more prepared and to be able to make decisions about what they can do and what they can't do and what they're comfortable doing, and get the education pieces that they need. Thank you. All right, the Where to Begin guide is one of my favorite tools that we have. And this is something that we send to caregivers and encourage them to go through. So it sort of breaks down a little bit of what I said before, what they may have to be called to do in the future, what they are comfortable doing, what they might need support with, what education pieces that they need, and how to best position themselves to be in there sometimes for the long haul. So it's a really nice guide. It's 6 pages and it's available on our website, and we can also mail it out to caregivers. And it encourages them to it encourages you to look after yourselves and to understand how caregiving can have an impact on you physically, emotionally, psychologically, and spiritually, and how to best prepare yourself for what comes. As my mom used to say, in a perfect world, yes, you would be prepared ahead of time, but sometimes fate just rises up and punches you in the head. My mother had a lot of really good lines. Thank you.
I'd just like to add here, Joanne, that the Where to Begin guide is a really great tool to see all that your care recipient is doing for themselves, or where things have changed, where all the things that you as a caregiver are doing. And then the third column is paid providers. So in that planning piece, it is that deciding, well, I'm not comfortable doing personal care. So let's look ahead in case that changes, who would we be contacting to do that? And so this is a great tool that can also help you talk to other professionals. You could go through it and go, wow, I'm doing so much more than I realized. And I need to share more of this with my doctor or my nurse practitioner, or this is a great tool to help me talk to continuing care and to really tell them about the situation at home.
Thank you. So all of our resources, many of our resources, pardon me, have been translated into French. So Par où commencer, Where to Begin guide is available in French, again, off our website, or you can call us and we can send it out to you. For the Fédération des Femmes Acadiennes de la Nouvelle-Écosse has been a great partner in developing tools and kind of rejigging tools, and are actually in the process of developing the French Caregiver Handbook, which we'll talk about further. So they've understood that the Acadian community is an isolated, underserved community in terms of French language services. And so they have been a great partner in sort of helping us focus on what tools we can translate or we can provide in French for that community as well. Thank you. So one of the resources, that's kind of like our the manual for caregivers, is our Caregiver Handbook. The last updated one is from 2008, but many of the resources are the same and stay the same. Our website is probably the best place to get updated information when it updates around programs and services. But there are 94 pages of resources, tools, and information in the handbook. So there's things like charts, medication, schedules to keep track of medication, doctor's appointments and notes that you might want to bring to ask the doctor. We always encourage caregivers to write things down. And many have said that they find this a really good central location to keep all their information about what they need to remember for their care recipient and also themselves. There are pull-out sections available on the website that are pull-out sections from the handbook, or definitely we're happy to send the handbook out to you as well. It's available digitally online as well in French. So right now, as I said, the FAFAN, the Fédération des Femmes Acadiennes, are in the process of doing an updated handbook based on ours, and also a handbook that was developed in Manitoba based on Caregivers Nova Scotia handbook a few years ago. So we're looking forward to seeing how those work out, and then we'll be trying to keep everything as updated as possible. But as I said, our website is an excellent source of current updated information if you're not finding what you need in the handbook. Thank you.
So I'm just going to stop sharing the screen for a moment, and I'm going to bring up our website just so that you're get a little picture of it. And Kara, how are we doing on time?
We are at 1:54.
Okay.
Good.
Okay, so this is our website, and this is the landing page. So you'll see that there's 4 bubbles there. So that can be one way to start looking at the information that's on here. There is oodles and oodles and oodles of information on here. And if you don't like going through all that, just give one of us, one of the coordinators a call, and we will do that for you and send you links that are for the information that you're looking for. So the Where to Begin guide is there, which was up in one of the slides. So if it just comes up here, and then you can just hit it here, and you will get the whole thing. And if you have a printer, you could print it off if that's your preferred way of looking at things. Okay. And at any time, you can just go back to our name up at the top, and it will bring you back to those circles. So there's the Caregiver Handbook, which you can, now if you call any one of us, again, the care coordinators, we will mail you out a handbook. But if you want to look at it first before you ask us to do that, then you can go there and you can download the whole book and take a peek through. This is an important button for people. This is all our support groups. So there we go. Once you hit that bubble, then you can go to the region that is closest to you. So I'm just going to go to my own region because that's what I'm familiar with the most. And this first one tells you all the support groups that I facilitate. And then down below is each individual poster. So if there's people in, in this presentation today that also have a workplace, or maybe you work at the library or something, you could also print off these posters or ask us to, and we can mail them out. These can be put up, or you might know of somebody in your vicinity that could use this kind of support. And again, you could just direct them to us. So at the bottom of the poster is each of our contacts names and numbers. And that's the best way to hear more about a support group, to see if it would be the right thing for you. And then we also know that you're coming. It used to be where we could, people could just drop into the support group. But with our new way of being in the world, we don't do that anymore. So it's important for us to know the numbers that are coming. At any time, on any page of the website, you can just scroll down to the very bottom. And this toll-free number brings you to the Halifax office. We don't want anybody, like we are committed. Yes, it most likely is Joanne or Brenda that will be answering the phone. And we really are committed to having all the programs free. So if it would be a long distance call for you, please, to call any of these other numbers, please call the toll-free number. And Joanne will take your information. She'll know that you're in my area. She'll call me and she'll say, Janine, give so-and-so a call. If you want to go directly to, so this is me down here. So it doesn't have our names here, but I can show you another way to get our names. But it has my email if you would prefer to communicate by email. So those are all our phone numbers and emails in our different locations. You could join our Facebook, follow on Twitter. There's a few good videos on the YouTube. But the newsletter is also a good thing that you may wish to choose to subscribe to. It only comes out 2 times a year, so it's not like you're getting bombarded with things. And when you do subscribe, you can choose the area of where you would like to know when special events happen, like a workshop or if we do a special kind of event, because then you'll get an email directly that says this workshop is happening in this location. So you can choose the whole province, but most people don't wish that. They just want to know a couple of counties that where things are happening. So that is another thing that you can do if you wish. On I'm going to just go to a different part to show you. Let's see. So transition and adult care, there's a lot of information here. So let's say I'm going to look at living safely at home. So on the side is always a menu that you can choose from. Often there's regions are in there, but living at home then is broken down yet again. So I want to look at home care, let's say. So then it gives you information about publicly funded home care. And then we have some of the fact sheets that are available for you right there. We have the government programs that are available. That's in a lot of different places. And then we also talk a little bit about private home care. And we even give you some questions, like if you were hiring a private company, some of those questions are useful for if you were hiring a private individual. And at the bottom of many of the pages on the website are caregivers tips. So this, we have the where to begin guide in there. And often there's other links in there. So I'm going to just try a different spot. Let's see. Okay. Well, I'll keep going. So there's sometimes on the pages too, there's a blue box, and that's just for those people who want to know where the research has come from about certain things. We titled those there. So the other piece, you can go to these buttons. So these will tell you more about who we are. So there's the about the symbol, about the hummingbird symbol, about our funders. There's even a story about how it all got started down here. And, so then you can use these is another way through navigating. My personal preference is using the bubbles. But at any time, so say you wanted to find home care and other services, you were looking for private care or you were looking for foot care, you can put what it is that you're looking for in there, and then you just hit enter. You just hit enter. Let me try it this way. Well, it might be because I'm sharing or something that it's not cooperating with me at the moment. But this generally is where, come on, no, it's not going to do it for me. Okay. Oh, it's working. There we go. It was just taking a long time. Sorry about that. So then it gives you a search of the words that you put in. So it might give you a few places to look for that information that they think you're looking for. So home care and other services, I'm going to go to learn more about that. And then it goes into the various regions again. So I'm going to go to the Valley. And then we have a listing of what services we do have on this page. So these are the private companies, home care companies that we are aware of that work in the Valley region. And then we have a list of private caregivers that is on the website as well. But there's other things here. Managed Inc. is a wonderful service here. So sometimes people are moving, downsizing, and Caroline will go in and help you map out your new home and help you decide what's gonna fit from your old living situation into your new, and help you pick your favorite pieces and maybe do the difficult task of letting go of some things as well. So Caroline's great. So there's things like that. We have food banks, meal preparation things, blood collection, dental, foot care. The list goes on. But again, this is a lot of information to look through. The fastest, easiest way to get your information is to call one of us. And I think I'll stop there for the website. And I'm just going to bring up the presentation again. If I can find it. No, sorry about this. One moment. All right, I'm not sure why it's, no, okay. Let me just close this out completely.
I'll just start talking about our educational workshops. We have several that we do. They're usually in person and they occur all over the province. So as Janine said, if you subscribe to our website or subscribe to our newsletter, you will be in the queue for any workshops that are coming up in your area. We have 5 workshops that we're doing, 4 workshops and a new workshop coming on come May. Right now, our caregiver stress management always was and continues to be one of our most popular workshops. I just actually did one yesterday with caregivers. Safe Medicines for Seniors is where we partner with a community pharmacist and answer caregiver questions and go through information that they may need or be trying to organize or would like a medication review. Brushing up on mouth care is one that was developed by the Dalhousie Dental Program. And again, it is about, because it can be quite challenging, especially, you know, when folks are not wanting their teeth taken care of. We know that mouth health care is very important. Advanced care planning is also a very popular workshop. People are always wanting to know information about how to prepare and how to plan for what's ahead. And then because so many of our caregivers are dementia caregivers, we all receive dementia capable training as a staff, and we are developing a dementia care workshop for caregivers that we're going to be unveiling during Caregiver Awareness Month in May this year. Thank you. So again, caregiver stress management, definitely our most popular workshop. And we go through sort of identifying what is normal stress of everyday life, what is caregiver stress, what actually happens to you when you are stress exhausted, and what are some of the signs of that. Some are common to many caregivers, some are unique to the individual. So we spend time exploring that. And then we go through exercises on identifying ways to kind of practice some self-compassion and take care of ourselves in a very kind of drilled down way. So step by step, pick a goal that you would have in your self-care, and then go through it and decide very specifically how you're going to go about doing that, kind of making promises to yourself. Our next workshop is Safe Medicines for Seniors, and that is also a popular one. As I said before, we partner with community pharmacist and go through medication reviews and the important, I mean, sometimes, you know, I know in my family situation, when my mother developed cancer, she was all of a sudden taking a whole bunch of medications and had been taking medications before and these sorts of things. So caregivers can bring questions to a pharmacist that will be answered. And we're happy to support that program for sure. The next one is advanced care planning for caregivers. And so we talk about the importance of making your wishes known, your care recipient making their wishes known, and how to navigate those sorts of sometimes challenging or difficult conversations. We help caregivers sort of with strategies around these crucial conversations. and help them develop their own plan. I know that's an important workshop because I assumed that it's a joke that we have. I assumed that my husband had the same feelings that I had about my advanced care. And he said, no, this is what I want. I want you pounding on my chest until I'm not breathing anymore. So, where I had different ideas. And so I had to say, I'm very glad we had this conversation because that's not what I thought you wanted. So difficult conversations, but important conversations to have. Our third pillar is around peer support. As I said, we have support groups, over 30 of them around the province. We have 2 virtual, actually 3 starting in April, but 2 virtual support groups that you can access through Zoom or by phone. One happens during the day on the second Thursday of the month. One happens in the evening on the third Tuesday of the month. And in April, we're going to be starting a French caregiver support group so that everything will unfold in French for French speakers. The wonderful thing about our peer support groups is that although we facilitate it, the caregivers really have the role of sharing information and strategies and tips. And I'm always amazed at how caregivers don't think they're experts in a lot of things, but they do hold so much information, and they are the expert on their care recipient, and many have navigated a lot of this stuff on their own already, so have a lot of great tips and advice for caregivers that may be further closer to the start of their journey. So sometime, and it's a safe place for caregivers to talk about some of their feelings that they may not feel safe sharing anywhere else. People will sometimes talk about their anger and their grief, which is very hard thing to say, and sometimes caregivers feel quite isolated, but because they'll say things like, I think I've exhausted all my friends and I can see them shutting down when I'm talking about my situation. So this is a place where all feelings are valid, everyone is respected. It is confidential. What happens in the group stays in the group, and the caregivers themselves develop a really great sense of camaraderie and sort of they're walking the same journey, whether they're ahead or behind. As Janine said, we will all be caregivers at some point in our life, probably, and we will all need a caregiver at some point in our life, probably. We do have occasional guest speakers. Right now it's tax season, so we get lots of questions around, what kinds of things are available to us in terms of relief from some things. How do I declare this? Or like I said before, some people don't know what they don't know. So it's really eye-opening to go through that. Thank you. And I think we're back to Janine.
So this is how you can support us, as we've keep saying throughout. Just let anybody that you believe could benefit from having a conversation with us, please let them know we're out there, or let them know that the website is there, that they can do that on their own if that's their preference. Yes, you can tell people, you can use it yourself, the referral form, you can do it online. It's very simple. There's only a couple of questions, basically, your name, can we leave a message? So there's very little information taken on that. And it's just kind of like, where do you live? So they know which coordinator to direct you to. And once you fill out a referral form, then that gives us permission to call you. So we make sure professionals know about that as well. And yes, just join our Facebook or my social media or the newsletter. Thank you, everybody.
That was amazing. So much information. We could probably be here. I'm just thinking, Joanne and Janine, we could be here for a long time talking about your programs and services. And the one thing, I think you said a couple of times, and it was just like, Joanne, I know you said it, you don't know what you don't know. And sometimes you don't know when to ask for help. And if you've been in a caregiver situation before, as many of the members in the audience today have been, please get the word out there, because you really want to be able to make informed decisions. as you said, Janine, a lot of people tend to come to you when there's a crisis situation. So what we really want to do is to connect with those caregivers before something happens, right? So thank you so much. And I love the fact that all of the, your programs, your services are free. There's no cost to the individuals actually who are taking your programs and services. I have a couple of questions here. And actually, I'm going to start with the first one here is, does Caregivers Nova Scotia have counterparts in other provinces?
We do. So there is Caregivers Alberta, there's one in Ontario, and BC. So there are just the 4 at the moment, and those 4 speak to each other a lot. There's a coordinated, so May is Caregiver Awareness Month, and there's a coordination around that between the 4 organizations. And I know that they're also advocating and hoping that there will be an organization like this in all provinces in the near future.
Wonderful, great. Another question. Can you provide information on the monthly caregiver's allowance, or if there is such a thing? I think that's the main question. Is there a caregiver benefit, and what are the requirements? And I'm thinking each person is probably going to be very specific, but would you like to maybe just direct people as to how to connect with that information?
So I can take this one, Janine. So caregivers would access the caregiver benefit program through the Department of Continuing Care. Right now, they would go through a list of questions. There's a sort of criteria that's listed on their website and our website as well, that sort of is a, I'm sorry, I'm getting lost in the French side of my head here, but it sort of explains the criteria, and there is an income test to it as well, and it's listed very clearly. So you would call the Department of Continuing Care, 1-800-255-7225, and they would walk you through that process.
Right. Yes.
Eligible or not.
Yes, that number is very popular to all of our clients, I think. 1-800-225-7225, and that's for the Department of Continuing Care. Thanks so much, Joanne, for that information. And actually, Sandra, if you want to take a look in the chat, Sandra has actually provided that information in there as well. So 1-800.
I just would like to add to that, so that, it is taxable. It's $400 a month. It's taxable. Some people may want to see if they're, especially if they're on guaranteed income supplements and different things like that, that it turns out to be a benefit and not a hardship in the end that they find out.
Right, exactly. I have another question here. So sometimes it can be really difficult, when we have a lived relationship with our family member, and then there's that change in role where we tend to we're providing more support. And so that has a tendency to change the relationship. How would you suggest to talk to your family members about that new role as a caregiver?
So I would start with myself. And I would be speaking about what I would want as a care recipient. And so it's a part of, it's one of those difficult conversations, but I think it's a great place to start and to continue on to the other difficult conversations that may come later. But I would start with myself and what I would want as a care recipient, or the experiences, that I have had, or witnessing friends and things. And, one of the things I would be saying is, could we establish, our lives are changing some. And maybe we can establish a routine. This was gifted to me by a caregiver, that every night they ended their evening with a gratitude. They went into a special room together and they did that together. So, and I think that just creates a ground of conversation, that you can have these conversations more often, and that you're really talking about yourself. And how you would like to be cared for, and that might help, somebody prompt somebody to say what they wish for and what you wish for each other. So I think that can just fodder that conversation.
Right. Yeah. And it's really sort of like you said, Janine, it's putting yourself into that person's shoes, really, and knowing how would I want to be supported and respected. So those conversations, and Joanne, you had mentioned it earlier as well when you were talking about speak up. And so looking at those personal directives, and you gave the example, you thought maybe your partner wanted a certain, specific ideas about what he wanted for his, his end of life wishes, those sorts of things. And it was different than what you anticipated, right? So that will happen as well.
Yeah, it is very much, pardon me.
No, go ahead, Joanne.
Oh, I was going to say it's very much a dance, right? I mean, as we age, things are changing anyways. But when someone develops an illness, you don't plan on that. And so the conversation, the Where to Begin guide is a good place to do that reflexive, like what do I feel prepared? And it's something you can do together as well. What are you comfortable with me doing? I know, my husband might be very happy for me to do his personal care. I might not want to do that. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It might, or there's some heavy lifting that I would want to maintain the integrity of our spousal relationship. Or if I'm a daughter, I may be really uncomfortable doing some things. So it's an important discussion to have. Definitely. So those strategies for those crucial conversations is very important.
Yes, and it's like you said, it's having those realistic expectations of knowing what I can and cannot do. It's knowing what your limitations are and knowing who else is in your network that you can ask, or like you said, Caregivers Nova Scotia, give them a call. Call the ASNS, one of our other partners, to try to figure out what that navigation piece is. So that's one of the other questions that we have here. When do I ask for help?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think it's going to be your friends and family that are going to notice. If you're not a person that thinks of asking for help, I always say to people that you're really giving people a gift when you accept help, because we're all hardwired to help. It makes us feel good. I trust that people are not going to ask me if they can help unless they really want to help me. So if you can reframe it as you're giving them a gift, that might make it a little bit easier. But listen to the people around you of what they're seeing on your face, and whether they, that's one place. The other is, if you're tired, if you're, if you're feeling different in yourself, the help might just be encouragement to connect with your friends and go out for a walk. That might be the only help you need at that moment. So yeah, I think it's listening to yourself, to your own body, and to your friends and family, because they will more likely notice it sooner than you will.
Mm-hmm. I just want to add that oftentimes caregivers will not reach out for support because there's a lot tied into the respect and dignity of the person that they love. So they feel if I reach out for help, then the cat's out of the bag. Mm-hmm. And they really are unsure how to navigate that. It's a great conversation to have with your loved one, and your family. And a lot of us already have a care team. I mean, people that we walk with, people that check in with us, people that we check in with. So it's really important to sort of identify who those people are that can help and what pieces they can help with. I can't bleed a furnace if the power goes out. Or if I run out of fuel, but I know my neighbor can help me do that. So that would be something that I would, hi, Karen, can you come and bleed the furnace for me? You know what I mean? So you already have people in your orbit that will step up and help. Again, like Janine said, it's a good feeling to help. My husband is an island. He doesn't ask for help, but he'll be the first one to show up with his tool belt and, his Ghostbuster backpack, I say, ready to help. And, and he's very reluctant. Whoops.
Oh, go ahead. Okay, I'm just going to pop this up just for a second here. Yep.
And very reluctant to ask for help himself. So I did exactly what Janine did. How do you feel when someone asks you for help and you go there and you're of service? Of course, he feels really good because that's what we're hardwired to do. And those happy endorphins are floating through our body and we feel useful and we feel helpful. So why wouldn't you want to share that feeling with someone else? Very true.
Very true. You know, and it just talks to that sort of having that sense of purpose and meaning as well, knowing that you're able to support someone else. We're going to take a second, and actually Sandra is going to put up a poll. And what we'd like to do, all of the audience members, if you could just take a second when that poll pops up. And while we're waiting for the poll to pop up, I'm going to thank Janine and Joanne so much for all of the information that you shared. And as Janine and Joanne had said, they have the Caregiver Handbook, which you can get. Actually, you have a physical copy that you can have. And as Janine had showed you on the website, there is also the Where to Begin guide. Lovely opportunity to have all of that information in one spot. So thank you so much for that. And thank you for sharing that knowledge and that information with us. I just wanted to let you know, and I'm not sure if the poll has popped up yet or not, but we'll wait for that poll to come up. As we're waiting, though, I'm going to let you know about an event that's coming up at the Alzheimer's Society of Nova Scotia on April 23rd. We actually have the early stage forum, which is coming up. And that is really an online event for people who are living with early stage dementia and their care partners. So if you're interested in attending that, please feel free to check out the link in our chat, or you can visit our website as well. That's Saturday, April 23rd from 10 a.m. until 11:30 a.m. And for those of you who are wishing to speak confidentially about their own specific situation around with their family member with dementia, please feel free to give us a call on our toll-free number, 1-800-611-6345. And just wanted to let you know as well that our session today is recorded, and we will have a copy of the session on the Alzheimer's Society of Nova Scotia YouTube channel. So if you have the opportunity and if you wanted to share this information that you learned about Caregivers Nova Scotia today, please feel free to share it with your friends and family, because it will be available whenever you decide to watch it on our YouTube channel. So thank you all very much. We appreciate your time, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your day. And thank you once again, Janine and Joanne. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.